The big name missing, obviously, is Cameron Holcomb. Is he injured? Or
He's got a bang on his leg.
Okay.
So contusion, and it's just one of those things that probably needs some time just to, especially for him as an athlete, Kubus. I don't think if he can run flat out, there's no use. Because what happens then is you can end up tearing a muscle. So, and he was actually sick this week as well. So it's actually worked out, not in our favour. It worked out that he was sick the same week that he's had an injury. Got it early. Got it in that first line break that he made. So he could play with it for the rest of the game. But I think once it cooled down, and once he flew back in the aeroplane, it sort of got a bit worse.
And just a word on Reinhard Ludwig, captain.
Yeah. Well, he's been captain. I was tempted when I say it was an option to make Nazam captain, but I'm not sure, going forward. You've got Marcel coming back, now Marco's back. I'm not sure, what the combinations will look like going forward. And I'm not sure about what the combinations are going to be, but I know for a fact that Reinhard will be around for the rest of the season as well, based on the fact that he can play lock and loose forward. So he's been a captain. And I think, again, you've got respect of the players. So you'll be helped by Nazam and by Willie and by, guys like Harold Forster and that. But I'm very comfortable that he knows what we want to get out of tomorrow.
Jake, just talk us through Jan Hendricks starting.
Yes.
And Gerard being on the bench.
Yeah.
Is the thinking...
It's called bomb squad.
Yeah, I was going to ask if the thinking is sort of the insurance of experience.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's a bit like that. It is. I joke about it, but it's a bomb squad. I think that what I've worked out with our squad now is it's also nice to finish up with Akka and Gerard and, guys like Giannis that have won European Cup finals and have won premierships. Piwe is a Springbok, comes off the bench this week. And I think I'm going to do that more and more. I'm going to try and rotate where, there'll be weeks where, maybe Ron or Kier can be on the bench because we can play two locks, put him on the bench and bring him on at the back end. And for a lot of reasons. One is I think we can get stronger, and it's a security of knowing that you can get stronger at the end. But also it gives me an opportunity to play other players for longer periods of time, not just always in the back end of games where they've either won the game or they're fighting to save the game. And a guy like Jan Hendrik, I thought he was really good last week until he went off. So, he could go 60 minutes this week, 65 minutes, and that allows me to give Gerard some time off as well, because we can't expect Gerard and Wilco to play 65, 70 minutes every weekend either. But I'm, that's obviously using them, but it will be the same for everybody. I'm going to, tempted to put Ambrose on the bench for some games as well, because he too can't play 60, 70 minutes every week as well.
You've had 24 hours to think about Sharks team.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I think they've got 8 Springboks in their starting lineup. So, people talk about the fact that they're losing a lot of players, but 8 Springboks in their starting lineup. Their front row Springboks, Jason's a Springbok, Pepsi's a Springbok, Grant's a Springbok. You go through that list. There's enough experience in that team. So the challenge just is, I suppose we just got to make sure that we play as well as we can. I know it's a cliche, but we can't really worry too much about what team they could bring, should bring, have brought. We've just got to make sure that we play. We've got a home game in front of our crowd now. We've got to make sure we play well.
Last one. You could be as many as 11 points up on the second place team in the SA conference. How tempting is it to...
Not really, because the reality is the conference works differently. Is you can come second on the log and still lose your conference because you lost your derby games. That's a new thing. I say new thing. That was brought in last year. So it is. It is a bit, I don't want to say strange, but it is different that you could end up getting a home semi-final and not win your conference. But I've said it many times to you, Sam, is that I'd much rather be in the back end of the competition playing at home than fighting for shields. You want to win both, but at the same time, you want to make sure you finish as high up on the log as you can. So the 11 points, to answer your question, is not relevant to the derbies because it's based on how many of the local derbies you win. Only those.
Jake, just maybe start off with Ulrich. Was a success, I take it. Any idea of what sort of length is it that you're going to be out?
No, Brent, I'll tell you what I got feedback was. The specialist is very, very happy. He was very, very, positive about the fact that what he did and how it worked out, that he was happy with that. And his sort of phrase to Ulrich and to everybody is the only thing we need now is time. And I suppose that is exactly it. I'm not sure. Time will, it just depends on quickly how it heals, how long it takes before he can do all the things he needs to do. And as I said last week, when I was on the field there, post the last matches, we're going to give him as much time as we need, because I think, 12 months turning to 14 months is going to make absolutely no difference. So he'll get as much time as he needs to get himself ready.
On Jan Hendrik starting again, the one thing it does do as well, it gives him chance to form a combination, obviously, with Hobbies and Wilke, and it also gives a guy like Francois Klopper a chance to play with also two experienced guys off the bench there.
Correct.
So that they don't come on as inexperienced, and that's, I take it's part of the thing.
Exactly. No, you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, what it does for a guy like Francois Klopper is when he runs out, he's got Gerard on the loose head side, and Akker is a test match rugby player. And it can only boost you as a player. So that is part of the thinking that I have when I rotate, is making sure that you put combinations together. The one thing that has moved away from where we were when I started here, it was Gerard, Grobbies and Morne Smith, and I was almost terrified ever to change that front row. You remember they played week after week after week. We've got now to a much better situation. I mean, obviously Werner's done a great job now in getting depth of our front rowers, but we've got Alu that can play loose head, Simpiwe can play loose head, and he has done with Francois and Morne. And then the hookers have played with different props as well. And we're getting to a point now where if I didn't pick Gerard, just for argument's sake, and I played Jan Hendrik at hooker, I could quite easily play Simpiwe and Alu as the two loose head props with two tight head props. And I wouldn't feel that we would be losing something in terms of cohesion.
Expecting a more settled performance from Billy. I know you said after the game, there were some things that he did and didn't do.
Yeah, well, I gave him the video, showed him the video. When he said, "What do you mean I turn you old?" I said, "Look here, you were standing here," and then I looked again, you weren't standing there, you remember that? Yeah. So he said, "Oh, okay." And I mean, that's probably the reason also, Brendan, why I haven't changed the backline. I think it's only fair. I asked him on Monday after the video session, when last did you play 10? And he said for Toyota in about 2022, 2023. Now, if you think about it, it's a hell of a ask for a guy. I know he's talented but you ask a guy to go from 15 and he goes straight into 10 in a big derby game in Cape Town against a team that have won the conference and been in two finals. He was always going to make a one or two errors. And so the thinking now is having Emmy and him together and the rest of the back line as it was, can only make it better for them because, as I said to Emmy, all the mistakes they made last week through communication or losing shape, I'm sure will be better this weekend.
Nicholas?
In our interviews this week, a lot of the players have been talking about the Bulls scrum dominance against the Stormers, and also that this is an opportunity to get one over the Sharks after December. Are there any aspects of the game that maybe aren't being mentioned that you're excited about?
Well, just that one. I think if we get quick ball and Willie can run onto defenders, I think they're going to be in trouble. Because we know how much space he creates for people in and around him. And that's what I'm hoping for. We're playing at home. It's at altitude. Field is quick. It's hard. And if we can get him running onto the ball, Willie, with his passing game, we can also create a bit of space for our backs. And that's why I said to Brendan now, playing the same backline. Also going to help in terms of the cohesion and understanding of what we want to do. But, I said it as well. The scrum is, I just rewind. A couple of years ago, I used to sit in this room and people used to ask me, your scrum is not that great and your scrum is very different when you bring on reserves. And that's true. And the work that's been done in the last couple of years, as I said, Vanna working with the front rows, got Jacques working with the juniors. And there's no doubt that we collectively have improved our scrum significantly. I know we've got the best scrum stats in the competition. So at this point in time, played the most games away from home. strongest scrum in the comp in terms of stats. Scored the most amount of points in the competition and conceded the least amount of points in the competition. So it's a nice place to be halfway through a competition. But saying that, because I don't want you to write up that I'm now saying something that I'm not, we also now need to use that as a massive bonus into our home stretch of games and take nothing for granted, because we set the platform, and it's a great way now to take the next few steps forward. Thanks, Neil.
Cool. Jack, basically the same team. I mean, the replacements you made is not a step back.
No.
Do you expect Billy to quicken the game and play a more open game on Saturday?
Well, I expect Billy to be a little bit more fluid in terms of him and Emmy's combination, and I expect him to be a little bit more game. I don't want to say aware, because he is a hell of a clever rugby player. Just a game sharp. I think that he'll kick when he needs to kick, and he'll run when he needs to run. And I trust him on that. But I am saying that I think that Billy, a second week in the number 10 jersey, a second week playing with the same backline, I can only see that it can be a benefit. I can't see that he won't be as good as he can be, especially the fact that we're at home now and we got a bit of momentum when we've won a few games, and there's a bit of, you guys would know, when you win in the change room is a bit different. Last week we won in Cape Town for the first time in a long time. That can only help your confidence and help the buzz in the change room.
So we can expect a high octane game, especially with the altitude also.
Correct. Especially, I'm not giving too much away. We've got a strong bench. I would think that the Sharks would have to hang on to their starting team for as long as possible. So what we've got to try and do is the first 60 minutes is really put them under the pump. There's no use trying to play the game for 80 minutes. We try and play it as quickly as we can for 60. And that'll be something that we'll, especially with a guy like Willie, is we'll try and make sure that we can create as much defensive pressure on them for the first 60 minutes, so that the back end of the game, when they have to use their bench, because it's altitude and it's that coastal side that are coming out, when they have to use their bench, hopefully we can put our bench on and even get stronger.
Sorry, last one, remember. When you were on your losing streak, a lot of complaints was made regarding your bench that came up that slowed the game and everything, and you turned that around because your bench is now really making an impact.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
I listened to the media. The media told me that we're not winning games, we're on a losing streak, and our bench isn't good enough. So I went home, made some notes, and I thought, geez, there's pills of wisdom there. I think Stormers are on a 3-4 game losing streak now. I think, if I remember, I haven't read anything about it in the media. And I think we've beaten them 4 times now, twice in the Currie Cup and twice in URC Rugby, and I still haven't read anything about that. But sometimes the media have got good points as well, Cole. We can't always knock the media.
We don't believe you, Jack.
Any questions on the winning streak?
No, I wouldn't dare to go there. So I wanted to ask you, I spoke last week about good defenses. You only conceded 16 tries in 8 games. Last week was 5 tries in 1 game. Yeah. Anything that went wrong that you could identify for this weekend to fix?
Yeah, listen, to be fair, we were shocked about that. I spoke to Jean, the defence coach, and that's, I think that's an anomaly based on the fact that we've been so watertight. And there isn't something glaring. It would just be some things that we probably slipped on. I think, to be fair, we probably put too many numbers in the breakdown and got beaten by a team that can actually attack you out wide. I think that's basically, if I summarize it for you like that. And I wonder, rugby's a strange game, as you all know. If we'd kicked all our kicks over and we'd got their last conversion and they were 9 points, 10 points, 12 points down, would they have scored their 5th try? I'm not so sure. I think the way the game flowed and they needed 7 points to win changed a couple of things. That's what makes rugby so interesting, is that would they have scored 5 tries if we had kept building scoreboard pressure on them? I'm not so sure. Just because of the fact that it's much tougher to chase a game when you're 12, 14 points down than it is when you're 6 points down. But there's nothing glaring. I mean, I think that sometimes those sort of defensive performances are also not good, but they're also a wake-up call for you as a group. And this week will be no different. I mean, they've got a backline of players that can attack. And their last try they scored against us in Durban was a counter-attack try. So, I mean, probably a little bit of a dress rehearsal last week of what we can expect against the Sharks here.
One thing I wanted to ask you, remember, sometimes because of injuries and you're forced to use players that don't play that often.
Yes.
And you see it sometimes when the bench comes on. They make mistakes they wouldn't probably make, like the kick going too long or not going out and then putting pressure on it.
Correct.
How do you counter that? For example, Zach not playing enough. I'll just give you an example.
And I'm going to say to you, we've brought something in this year where we have a video session every Tuesday where we talk about that. And exactly that is often what happens is, and I found that when you coach, say, 23, 25 players every week, the guy that's going to play in 3 weeks' time isn't in that video session, you take it for granted that the message you give to the 25 is going to go to, and it hasn't been going there. So what we do now is every Tuesday we have a video session with the whole club, and we go through things that happened in the game that everyone needs to be aware of, like kicking it out when the hoot is gone, if I use an example this week, defensively the last set, understanding that you can't put anyone into a breakdown because they have to score 7 points from the kickoff, making sure that you understand you have to kick off deep. You're not going to give them 20 meters for nothing by kicking a contestable on the locks, so that everybody is aligned in the club. But I don't think you'll ever get to a point where the guy who hasn't played much will ever be as sharp as the guy who's playing every week. The one way you can do that, and I'm saying make the gap a bit closer, is the way we train. And the way we train is we train with 3 teams, and we interchange those teams all the time. So you can have Embros with Buta, and then you can have Zak with say, Jaco van der Walt, and you can have as halfbacks, and we swap them around every week so that you never know when you're going to have to play with that combination. And that has helped us significantly this year and last year in bringing a guy from the wilderness and bringing him into the team.
On the subject of Jaco van der Walt, what's happening with him?
Just come back. I mean, he was niggled in a couple of niggles, but he's now back and should be eligible and all that now from now on in to start, training and playing.
Thanks.
Because Jake, obviously this weekend could have gone either way for you guys, but I think it's obviously gone in your favour. But what do you think that game has done for the players in terms of getting that win and giving those guys obviously that belief that they can win games? Doesn't matter if it's a kick or not.
Well, you've been in a change room many times. You know what it feels like. That kick goes over. The talk is very different. The mood's very different. I'm talking about the kick of Clayton's. And conversely, David's kick goes over. The mood's also very different because they wouldn't have, even if they'd kicked the conversion, they couldn't beat us. So yes, I mean, that is, as I said, you've sat in change rooms like that. So the mood is unbelievable. I mean, the mood is positive. Sim mentioned it. We're ahead of the other teams. We still got a game in hand. We got our destiny in our own hands based on the fact that if we keep winning, we can get a home playoff. I'm not sure how high up we can get a home playoff, but at least we can get a home playoff. And that's, as a sports team, you're always in a great place when you can control your own destiny. You never want to have a situation where in 3 or 4 rounds you need certain teams to win and lose for you to make it. And that's what's quite nice. The buzz is good and the vibe is very good, having won in Cape Town. Because the Stormers, I mean, they're still a good team. They can score tries and they beat Sale by 40 points to 0. So whatever people say, it's a tough place to play. They've had our number for a long time. So now that we've got that monkey off our back, we've won now away from home in Cape Town. And the mood is so much more positive now. I just hope we can take that whole energy and mood into tomorrow's fixture.
Does this change anything in terms of your preparation going into the kind of back end of your season? We obviously asked you last week in terms of giving guys opportunities and stuff like that. Does this change anything for you guys?
Well, I haven't changed. No, but I haven't. I've still got to give players hope. A guy like a Piwe Deanti comes in now for Sebastian de Klerk. Sebastian's played really well, but a Piwe's trained nicely, and you got to give him some hope that he's going to be seen. Mpilo Gumedi's been out for a while. Okay, through circumstance now, Cameron, whatever, but he's now in, and that means that if he plays well, he just creates so much more pressure for everyone else because they all want to play in the starting 23. But it doesn't change. I mean, I'm fully aware, guys. We lose between, and I touch wood, but we lose about 2-3 players every game. Now, whether it's HIA for 2 weeks or whether it's a knee injury or whether it's generally you're going to have to, over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 games, you're going to lose 10 players. And then you're going to need, that guy that's been training well to come in, and you're going to need to rotate anyway. So sometimes your hand is is for you, but sometimes you're planning. So to answer your question, you have a plan, but sometimes it also gets you're messed around by the fact that you have unforeseen injuries or sicknesses or whatever.
Yeah. And just last question on the Sharks. They've obviously had a bit of a rest time and a rest period. So they've put out a good side. What are you expecting from those guys coming up? Obviously, like you mentioned earlier, the altitude is tough from that side to here. Yeah. What are you expecting from those guys? Being a bit more fresh, but yeah.
I'm expecting them to run from everywhere. That's what I'm expecting. I mean, I'm expecting with the backline they picked that they're going to try and run from everywhere. I'm expecting that they would have seen what the Stormers did last week in terms of trying to beat us out wide, and they will try and do that as well. But remember, it comes at a price, because if you get it wrong at altitude, you're running in quicksand. But I'm expecting that. That's what I mean. They might prove me wrong, but I'm expecting with the team they've picked that they're going to try and outrun us. And that's going to be, we've got an interesting battle, because we got obviously got strong forwards, and it's very difficult to run if your legs are tired from scrumming and mauling.